that you came to join us, and let's get this party started. I also want to make sure that I thank our sponsors. We have the New York State Laborers, Susan and Alan Kahn, IBEW Local 3, Operating Engineers Local 137, Steam Fitters Plumbers Local 21, Tile, Marble, and Terrazzo Local 7, Carpenters, Elevator Industry Work Preservation Fund, Iron Workers Local 46, CWA, Special in Our Hearts, Labor Council for Latin American Advancement, Insulators Local 91. And we also want to thank all the individuals who bought seats for the community, which allowed us to make this event free during these challenging times. And these are really the folks that we're working so hard for, our community, our small business owners, our residential tenants, everyone who is part of the fabric of Port Chester. And so now I'm delighted to introduce to you someone who's very special to me. She's a board member of the Alliance, one of the founders of the New Guard. She's a fellow of the Elias Foundation, a student, and Clay Arts Center staff member. She's a daughter. She's an auntie, a tia. She's a sister. She's a fearless fighter, and she is my hero. Zelton Sanchez was also one of the recent hunger strikers to highlight the plight of excluded workers and the Excluded Workers Fund we're currently seeking for a passage in this month's for the April 1st New York State bill budget rather. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's Zelton Sanchez.
Thank you so much, Joan. That's really nice of you. Before I present our first honoree of the night, we would like to thank the artist that created our awards, Brianna Hendricks, who is currently the Westchester Community Fellow at the Clay Arts Center. Greg, would you share one of the pieces with us, please? And so the pieces that were created will be delivered to the honorees later on, but if you are unfamiliar with the Clay Arts Center, I highly recommend that you check out the gallery and shop and support local artists. So that's one of the vases, and each of the honorees will be receiving one later on. Also, a reminder to check the chat later on and click on the links posted so that you can donate to us. You know, funding helps us continue to fight and support our community members in the community. So our first award, and Greg is here now, our first award is being presented to Greg Hamilton. I met Greg a few years ago walking the streets and sharing Know Your Rights flyers. Greg is a local leader who has been working with the Alliance for a few years and has moved on to be our executive director. So congratulations, Greg. Greg has been a member of important working groups in our community, such as the Port Chester Immigrant Defense, the 2020 Census Complete Count Committee, the Resident Advisory Voting Committee, and is currently the municipal historian for the town of Rye. Greg, thank you for your dedication and commitment to our community.
Thank you, Zell, for that introduction. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining our benefit. I discovered the Sustainable Port Chester Alliance as a result of the organizing which flowed from the Women's March back in January 2017. It was also then that I became a founding member of Port Chester Immigrant Defense, a local support group which assists new arrivals to settle and assimilate here in the village. Meanwhile, I started attending Alliance meetings and then a retreat, and then helped to organize a couple of events. I stayed involved because I admired Joan's leadership and vision and learned a lot from Locker Associates, our organizing consultant. As an aging, male, white, Anglo-Saxon Protestant, I certainly did not expect to eventually be asked to step into Joan's shoes as the organization's executive director. But local activism has become my second career and chosen vocation in retirement, and now suddenly I'm responsible for leading an organization. I'd like to think that I'm sufficiently sensitive to issues of race and gender and immigration status to represent the interests of marginalized members and residents, and I am committed to doing so. But I must beg your indulgence as I learn to navigate the ethics and politics of leading the Alliance. I am extremely proud that we're honoring two strong, successful female entrepreneurs this evening, and that two capable, popular, determined female politicians will be speaking at our fundraiser benefit tonight even as Women's History Month draws to a close. So there's a strong female thread through this event. Thank you, Joan, for recognizing and rewarding my activism, and a hearty thank you to our speakers, donors, and attendees, and also to the dedicated crew that has helped pull this event together over the past 3 months. You know who you are.
Here to introduce our second awardee, honoree, Lou Sanchez. And it's a real pleasure to introduce Lou. After working with unions for almost 40 years and the building trades here in New York for almost another 10 years, I can tell you without any hesitation or any doubt that Lou Sanchez, and I mean this from my heart, is a labor leader we honor tonight, is one of the finest, most reliable, and hardworking leaders I have ever met. His smooth, graceful, diplomatic demeanor, and I like the way I've said that, which he attributes to past girlfriends, his wonderful wife, endows him with an uncanny ability to agree while disagreeing. Sometimes, something I can't do. He does this without wavering from his total commitment to social justice on every level, personal and political, constantly searching for new and more imaginative ways to achieve the union's lofty purposes. Lou is an excellent organizer, employing his bilingual skills and Puerto Rican heritage to recruit numerous young workers into the IBEW, very successfully, I might say. Believe me, union reps, and Lou is included in that category, especially during this punishing and deadly pandemic, have a very hard time serving and protecting their members while promoting the broader political and social objectives of their union, and more broadly, the interests of all workers, both union and non-union. It's really a 24/7 job because you are constantly dealing with deep individual and union problems. Most importantly, despite his personal success, I know Lou is firmly guided by where he came from, never losing sight of what it means or meant to grow up in the Bronx. And what a wonderful and close family he has, a terrific wife and 2 beautiful daughters. And he's totally dedicated to providing so much love and support that everyone needs to get through life. And Lou understands that very deeply. So Lou, because of your dedication and hard work for the Alliance, helping us navigate through the treacherous building trades politics, and because of your clear thinking, transparency, and trustworthiness, I want to underline trustworthiness, the Alliance and I finally have the opportunity to pay you the honor you so clearly deserve.
I don't know what's more nerve-wracking, getting someone talking about you in person or on this Zoom thing with scrolling by pages and pages and seeing people there. But thank you, Mike. Mike is one of the most underrated members of the Alliance. He takes all the punches and we get honored. That's how it works here. But thanks again, Mike. So I want to start off by recognizing today's date. I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but today's the anniversary of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. A very important anniversary to those of us in the labor movement. Over 146 people, mostly women, perished that day in about 18 minutes. And for all of us, the fire was a key moment in the growth of labor unions in this country. So I just wanted to mention that. Today is the date. I don't know who picked this day for the event, but good job. Another date coming up is April 4th, which marks the anniversary of the assassination of this country's greatest hero, in my eyes, Dr. Martin Luther King. And I think most of you understand the strong relationship between MLK and the labor movement. I think about Local 3's Educational Center out in Cutchogue. We have a museum there where we have preserved letters from MLK to then business manager of Local 3, Harry Van Arsdale, supporting each other during some very, very difficult times, right? And how relevant that is today, right? In the atmosphere of social justice that's going on right now. So I'm just rattling off some thoughts in my head when I'm trying to figure out what to say tonight. All of this is going on, and people ask me all the time, "Who are you?" you know, what drives you? And those are the things that drive me. That relationship that my business manager had with MLK, the relationship between the labor movement and the civil rights movement, it's at the very center of who I am every single day. Those are two hats that never come off. So for those of you that, most of you guys know me on this Zoom, but for those of you that don't, now you know. My vision is to see more coalitions, to be honest with you, with labor unions and community activists throughout the county, and quite frankly, nationally. I think we should doing this, what we're doing here in Portchester, we could do everywhere, and it would make for a stronger society and a stronger labor union movement. I want to take a minute to talk about two issues. Right? We could probably spend a couple of hours talking about the issues in the labor movement, but if we're going to narrow it down to two, I want to mention one. In New York State, you need a license to cut hair, you need a license to do manicures and pedicures, but one of the most dangerous jobs in the construction industry, electrical work, you don't need a license. And that blows my mind. And I say that because, and I'm not here to advocate in licensing in New York State. What I'm advocating for is everything that comes along with that, which is the training, right? Up in Connecticut, you need a license to be an electrician. Well, to apply to get that license, you need at least 500 hours of classroom training. You need at least 1,000 hours in training out in the field. So that's a big issue that's underlined here in New York State. The other issue, the other point I would make is best summed up by John Glenn, who was a state senator and an astronaut. I'm going to paraphrase this, but he said, "As I hurtled through space, one thought kept crossed my mind. Every part of this rocket was supplied by the lowest bidder." And it's one of my favorite quotes because that's exactly the issues that we have here in the construction industry. It doesn't matter your skill level. It doesn't matter if you bring a job in on time, under budget. It matters the cost. The lowest bidder gets the job almost every single time. And what does that translate to? Translate to workers getting lower wages. Those are the two things that I like to highlight this evening. Because of the bidding system, workers will always be on the shit end of the stick. All right. Thank you, guys.
Lou, that was terrific. So I get to award the third award of tonight is to one of our strong female entrepreneurs, Jeanette Zuccina. She was born in Brazil, educated at the University of Sao Paulo in nursing and in psychology, arrived in the U.S. in 1986 and in Portchester in 2006. She's been a key figure in engaging small businesses in town with the Alliance. She runs and founded Portchester Eye Care with her son Rodrigo, one of 3 children and 10 grandchildren. She's hosted town hall meetings for the Alliance, and she is kind of a strong, assertive voice that we need to push back against the powers that be. Sadly, Jeanette has had a conflict come up and is unable to attend tonight, but I think accepting in her place will be her husband, John Hickman.
Good evening, all. Everyone at the Sustainable Portchester Alliance. As you said, unfortunately, Jeanette could not make it tonight, but she asked me to pass along her, grateful appreciation of this award. And, she would like to thank everyone in person, when she can. Now, one of the things I just wanted to hit on that you said about Jeanette is if you know her, she sticks to her guns, no matter what no matter what she's involved with. So I think she's a good person to have working with you there. She will stand up to just about anybody and make her point known. So again, I would just like to say thank you all. She appreciates it very much, and she will be speaking to you soon. Thank you.
My name is Jeanette, and I am truly honored to be part of this beautiful ceremony. The Alliance, a champion to the people of Portchester, has once again shined its light of reckoning to the untold story of courage, hardship, and prosperity, led by virtuous women that has significantly contributed to the great village of Portchester. Today, the Alliance is illuminating Portchester with recognition and honor to strong women who own businesses despite obstacles they face and refuse to let politics determine our future. I first arrived in Portchester in 2006, when very few people want to live here because it was considered an undesirable place to live. It was 15 years ago when I decided to set root in this town and start my business right here in Portchester. I began with the little money I had and eventually borrowing from everyone. It was a mess. At the time, if you had a pulse, probably I owed you money. After 2008 housing market crash, things got even worse. I had health issues, financial issues. There were a couple of times Connect cut the power due to unpaid bills. It was tough. It was even worse when people close to me told me to shut down. I will never forget my own children worrying if we were going to make it. I raged, I cried, I broke down. I went through hell. But that didn't stop me from continuing. I believed that I could pay everyone back. I believed those words of failure could be taken back. I believe in myself. My business, Portchester Care, has allowed me to meet so many wonderful people. It has allowed me to be part of this vibrant community and meet people from all walks of life. It has also shown me that people treat you different based on how you are perceived. The village has long been rebuilt by the immigrants from South and Central America, despite our documentation status and all the obstacles they face. We are neighbors who help each other out. This community helped me be where I am today, and I'm happy to give back so that we are not pushed out by politicians. Yes, we need to pay for public service, but not at the expense of pushing out people who are struggling and fighting for a better life. The Alliance is a group of neighbors and volunteers fighting to protect our small business. Fair labor and affordable housing are included in any new development projects and giving voice to the voiceless, our undocumented hermanos and hermanas. Para os nossos conterrâneos, a aliança é um espaço seguro para nós também, lutando pela proteção dos nossos direitos. I'm honored to accept this word from the Alliance. Why? Because they know that stronger women rebuilt this village, and they know we are not giving up on our village. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever, because they know our future generation depend on it. Thank you.
All right, and so now we'll hear from our volunteer, Carol McMillan. Carol.
Thank you. I am delighted to recognize Olga Santos as an honoree this year. I met Olga several years ago when she hosted a community event at her lovely restaurant, Aquies Santa Fe, which she has run for 13 years. Since then, I've enjoyed many meals as well as her warm hospitality and the work that she and her son Carlos have done to strengthen the restaurant community here in Portchester is remarkable and has made this the village that we all love. Olga is unable to be with us tonight due to a family commitment that involved a trip out of town, but I believe Carlos is going to accept the award on her behalf. Thanks, Carlos.
Yeah, what a pleasure to just get to see so many familiar and somewhat familiar faces. Unfortunately, my mom is in the skies right now, and I mean on a plane, come on. But that being said, we came to Portchester in 2008, kind of like Jeanette, in the middle of the recession. Well, literally at the cusp of the recession, and she invested into Portchester, and here we are almost 14 years later. We have a flower shop, and we're very much involved in making sure that that restaurants here and businesses here get a fair share. So I know that she would say, man, all praises to God. She's a very godly woman, but also, hey, everything we do is from a place of love. And so it's a pleasure to be here and get to receive this in her place.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Olga Santos y estoy muy agradecida por este homenaje que realmente no esperábamos. Pero es un privilegio poder servir, es un privilegio por más de 20 años estar viviendo en esta área y amé a Port Chester desde el primer día. Ha sido un pueblo que nos ha abierto los brazos de una manera realmente hermosa. Tener allí a Santa Fe en esa esquina, cuando llegamos hace 14 años, un área totalmente deprimida, y ver cómo ha florecido, ver lo que a través del esfuerzo de mujeres hispanas preciosas, las cuales trabajan en nuestros lugares, nos han enseñado el verdadero valor de trabajar para la comunidad, de ayudar a aquellas madres solteras que tienen sus hijos y que salen a trabajar para darle a esos niños un futuro mejor. Realmente es un privilegio vivir en esta área, tener un pueblo como Port Chester y saber que ha crecido de una manera que yo pienso que nadie se lo imaginaba, ni aún nosotros. Y ahora por 14 años estar sirviendo ha sido realmente el estímulo que ha llevado a Carlos y a mí adelante, sabiendo que eso es lo que queremos hacer el resto de nuestra vida, servir, ayudar, amar y por sobre todas las cosas con el respeto que cada persona se merece. Allí está el verdadero valor de aquellos que quieren ayudar, porque eso es lo que significa el servicio. Y estamos muy complacidos en esta tarde de participar y de seguir llevando el nombre no solamente de Colombia en alto, sino de el pueblo hispano, que tanto se esmera y se esfuerza por sacar adelante sus familias y el país, porque somos definitivamente una fuerza de trabajo. Eso es lo que nos enorgullece. Muchísimas gracias, los abrazo y espero tener otros 20 años más sirviendo desde nuestros lugares a la comunidad, a las mujeres, cabezas de familia que han demostrado que nosotras podemos sacar a nuestros hijos adelante, primeramente con la ayuda de Dios y luego de todos los que están a nuestro alrededor. Muchísimas gracias. De verdad, apreciamos enormemente esto y sepan que nuestro staff Santa Fe y nuestros negocios, Naras y Santa Fe Flowers, estarán siempre listos para apoyar, para ayudar, para servir y lo más importante, para dar.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Olga. I'm sorry that you couldn't be with us this evening, but thank you, Carlos, for stepping in. And this is exactly who Sustainable Port Chester Alliance is working for, Jeanette and Olga, and all of our small business owners and residential tenants who never had a voice to help get them forward in the community. And so thank you very much for that. So now I'd like to, it is my pleasure, my honor, my privilege to introduce our state senator, Shelley Mayer. Shelley believes in public service. She's active, she is responsive, and she is fighting for all of us in Albany. And we are so grateful that she is our representative. So I'd like to introduce to you our state senator, Shelley Mayer. Thank you for being here, Shelley.
Thank you, Joan. It's really, really a pleasure to be here. I mean, I just would tell this story. When I first thought I was running for this state Senate seat, when there were other people in the race, Joan somehow found me and said, you have to come to Port Chester and have coffee and learn about Sustainable Port Chester. That was before I was anything. And I was just so drawn to the work, the mission, the unity, the acknowledgement of the challenges and the opportunities that Port Chester had, that Sustainable Port Chester embodied. So it's a thrill to be here. Congratulations to the honorees, all of them. Greg, Jeanette, my very good friend Lou Sanchez, and it was wonderful to see Olga, and it's nice to see you, Carlos, to be able to speak about what the real success of so many of the small businesses in the face of enormous challenge this year, enormous challenge. So with that, my job is really to introduce two people. First, there's going to be a fireside chat led by Beth Chevry from Sustainable Portchester. She's going to be the dialoguer, so to speak, with my friend, the fantastic Senator Jessica Ramos, who is here with us today. So Beth, for everyone who doesn't know her, is a member of the board of directors of Sustainable Portchester. She works as a marketing expansion coordinator for the Laborers Employers Cooperation and Extension Trust. She's very much part of the heart and soul of Sustainable Portchester. And she is an advocate for non-traditional employment for women, which is a big deal for me, and I know for Senator Ramos. Let me spend a minute about my friend and colleague, Senator Ramos. First place, if we are going to win on protecting excluded workers, it is because really of Senator Jessica Ramos. She put her foot down and said this issue cannot be swept aside. And these folks who she represents, and she'll talk about in her district, and I represent in my district, and together with my colleague Steve Otis, who I saw earlier, this is the heart and soul of the kind of passion that Senator Ramos brings to our conference and brings to her constituents and to the whole state. She is a stand-up person. You might note she's not afraid of anybody, which is a great thing to have now in Albany. She is the chair of the Senate Labor Committee and a real friend of working people, and always something I so respect, able to bridge the divide between some of our traditional union brothers and sisters and our communities of diversity, and particularly excluded workers who have not always seen eye to eye or been embraced fully. But Senator Ramos brings that passion together and those communities together, which is exactly what Sustainable Portchester is about. So I just have to say this, at the beginning of COVID, no community really faced the horrors like her community did. And she communicated that to all of us. Those of us that I represent New Rochelle and Portchester, places that got hit very hard. But the intensity of what happened in Queens cannot be overstated. And Senator Ramos brought that to us, all of us, and said, we have to fix this. And it really is her leadership. I'm hopeful we're going to get to the finish line on this Excluded Workers Fund and get income replacement for those people who've been working, contributing to our community, and absolutely need to get a bigger amount. Yes, I see you, Zeltson, than we started with, but we are pushing to get to the finish line. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Beth and my wonderful friend and colleague. I'm honored she's here, Senator Jessica Ramos.
Thank you so much, Senator. And I echo your kind words for Jessica's passion as well. And good evening, Jessica.
Hey, Beth, what's going on?
I just wanted to say, on behalf of our guests and the Alliance Board, I wanted to thank you so much for joining us. We've received some excellent questions from the community here. Before we get started, please remember to check out our chat room if you'd like to make a contribution. No contributions too large. And okay, let's jump right into it. So Jessica, you're a sponsor of Bill 2766 that targets construction wage theft. How will this bill help protect construction workers who face wage theft by their contractors, and how will it be enforced?
Thank you for the question, Beth. And before I answer it, I hope it's okay that I take a small point of privilege just to say hi to my good friend, Shelley Mayer. And I mean, it's so, I can't believe that Shelley Mayer gets to introduce me in that way, because I came up in the labor movement looking up to Shelley Mayer. She was an extraordinary assemblywoman, now in the state Senate. And I mean, I can't believe I'm even her friend. She said I'm her friend. But that's all to say that she's right. Look, the situation that our districts are in now, both Senator Mayer's, mine, and many others, is quite dire. And so I'm very fortunate and very appreciative of our alliance, of our solidarity, of our teamwork around securing money for those who haven't seen economic relief over the past year. It's a big deal when we get it done. It looks like it might be the first of its kind in the entire country. and will be hopefully leading the way once again, and showing that New York is a place where every single New Yorker is a New Yorker. We take care of our own, we take care of each other, and we recognize the labor of those who really make our city and our state a better place. So thank you, Shelley, for everything that you do, because I still very much look up to you. Thank you, Shelley. The bill I introduced to combat wage theft in the construction industry really comes from a lot of policy work that we've done with the trade unions, the plumbers, the carpenters, so many others, in understanding how it is that we can stop the industry from undercutting union wages and from undercutting union standards on safety, and all the other shortcuts that contractors usually take. Unfortunately, especially for day laborers, wage theft is rampant. Overall, in New York State, wage theft pre-pandemic happens to the tune of $1 billion a year, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. That's quite embarrassing. I have an overall bill called the Sweat Bill to think that through. But specifically for the construction industry, many times contractors figure out how to connect themselves to other subcontractors and other contractors so that you can't quite place who the actual employer is and who it is that owes these wages to the worker. And so what I'm trying to do with my bill is make sure that the general contractor assumes liability, since the general contractor is the one who generally decides who else is going to work on that job, who else is going to be on the job. So we're not leaving any workers behind in our policy. I'm hoping to have many more state senators, including Senator Mayer, join my bill. And hopefully we can get it done this session and stop wage theft in our communities.
Great, and we see it a lot, as you know, in the industry, so know that we're behind you. So many Portchester labor and service workers received no stimulus payments from the federal COVID relief bill. And you're the lead sponsor for the Excluded Worker Relief Act that demands the state provide aid to compensate for workers who were excluded from the bill. As you heard during introductions, our board member, Delton Sanchez, participated in the hunger strike to fight for the passage of this bill. When the governor laid out his budget priorities just yesterday, I don't think he mentioned this fund. So I guess, how do you see the bill playing out, and how much influence do you think the governor will have under these unprecedented circumstances, so to speak?
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it, Beth. I'll do my best to be as diplomatic as I know to be. Like you said, many workers were excluded from any economic relief. And what we mean by that is that they didn't receive a stimulus check the first time or the second time, and they didn't qualify for unemployment benefits. It could be that they're undocumented. It could be that they are formerly incarcerated and don't have the employment history to qualify. It could be that they participate in the cash economy in some sort of way. They're a street vendor, they're a sex worker, they're a domestic worker, they're a nail technician. There are slews of people, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers that have been excluded from all of the economic relief plans that have been offered. And so what we're saying with our Fund for Excluded Workers is that, of course, the state can and should and will step up to fill this void that the federal government has left. And this is really important because as we're also starting to talk about immigration at the federal level, we have to correct people when they say these fallacies. Undocumented people pay taxes. Undocumented people pay a lot of taxes. Right. And so it's actually unfair that they are able to contribute to our system, but actually aren't able to depend on any sort of safety net. This is why, Congressman Jones earlier was talking about the American Rescue Plan, which is going to help especially parents who've had trouble during this time. And that's the truth. I mean, so many people, 1.5 million New Yorkers go to bed hungry every single night. And right now, Corona, Queens, one of the neighborhoods I proudly represent, is the epicenter of the eviction pandemic in New York State. We have so many families on the verge of eviction because they're behind on their rent, because they're unemployed, because they didn't qualify for any of this relief. And the situation is growing worse by the day. We've already seen a third of our small businesses in New York close and perhaps never return. We have to be able to put money in people's pockets. This is why also living wages are so important, right? Put money in people's pockets so that they not only have the disposable income to spend, but hopefully the wherewithal to save and hopefully open that small business in the future and promote innovation and entrepreneurship in our communities to keep our streets vibrant as well.
That's great. We really are the epicenter of the epicenter. It's crazy. What do you think New York State, which is of course one of the richest states in our country, can be doing to tackle poverty and reduce the growing inequality in income and in wealth?
How much time you got, Beth?
That's fair.
You know, pre-pandemic, the statistic already was that income inequality in our country is greatest in New York than in any other state. Yeah. And that unfortunately only grew worse during the pandemic. I don't know if you guys know, but there are approximately 120 billionaires in New York State, more than any other corner in the planet. Not Abu Dhabi, not someplace, you know, some island in the Mediterranean, none of those fancy places, just good old New York. And those 120 people have a combined wealth of more than $600 billion, okay? During the past year, in profits, they have made more than $100 billion. When we ask to tax the rich, we're only asking for a fraction, a tiny fraction of that money to go towards fully funding our public schools, making sure that the MTA is functioning. I know y'all have that Metro North up there. You know, like, all of these things, talking about, you know, permanent housing for our homeless neighbors here in the community. All of these things take money. And where is the money? The money is being hoarded by the richest people in this state. By taxing them, we're only getting a fraction. They can keep their yachts. They'll have their private planes. Their lives will be largely interrupted. The difference will be that hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers will be able to keep a roof over their heads and put food on the table. And that's invaluable. That's the mission. That's the aim of the game here. So I want to urge everyone who's watching us and joining us tonight, Beth, to please, if your state legislators aren't already putting pressure on the governor, making noise about this, this is going to make or break our economic recovery in New York. This is why we have to make sure it's fair and it's inclusive of everyone.
That's so important. Thank you, Jessica. Very well said. Actually, speaking of the audience, there are many young adults in the audience who fall into different minority groups. And like you, they are our up and coming leaders. What do you recommend they do if they want to get involved in politics or organizing?
Well, the number one thing is to love people. You have to love to talk to people and love to understand where they're coming from, especially when they disagree with you and especially when you disagree with them. And in taking that internal community assessment of sorts, really figuring out where your heart is and where you're destined to serve, how you should serve, right? Because there's just so many different ways. Perhaps it's in you to run for office, and I certainly encourage you to do that. But perhaps it's in leading, you know, on climate change. Perhaps it's leading on childcare. Perhaps it's leading on education issues. We need more people of color in every single profession.
Jessica, you're muted.
No, I think
it looks like we lost connection.
I
can see your passion, Jessica, but we just can't hear you.
There she goes.
I froze for a bit.
You're good now.
Sorry about that. I don't know. There was some sort of glitch. Don't blame me, my building can only get Spectrum, and it's non-union, as Lou may or may not know. So I have these Queens issues to deal with over here. I have a bunch of people not knowing what they're doing.
Heard your non-verbally, but
yeah. So yeah, I want to say lead with your roots. I think that many times we are taught as children of color, that we're supposed to fit a certain mold. No, break the mold. Please break the mold. Please be unapologetic about your skin color, about your accent, about your experience, about the sacrifices that your parents have had to do. I'm a proud Andean woman. My family comes from the mountains of Colombia, and I was born when my parents were both undocumented. My story isn't special in any sort of way because it's the story of so many New Yorkers, not even just Latinos. It's a story that is really at the heart of what New York is. And we're only going to be able to continue to build a state that's for everybody if we assume these leadership roles in our communities. So I wanna encourage you to keep meeting people, keep networking, keep figuring out how you can help, and keep love in your heart.
That's great. I hope you guys are taking notes behind the scenes. So what legislation are you involved in to prepare for climate change? And how are we going to make sure green jobs will come with labor standards and living wages?
Thank you for the question, Beth. One of the most frustrating things I think for everybody in the labor movement is that we can't expressly just pass a bill that says anything that is ever built will be built union. That would be the bill to pass. But unfortunately, that's not constitutional, so we won't be doing that. Which is why figuring out how to put workforce development plans that certainly maintain standards that we know only unions are able to teach, are able to certify, are able to maintain on workplaces is so goddamn critical. As we see so many jobs shift into green jobs, and actually a very good example is right here in my district, where the governor is currently proposing a peaker plant, meaning a new plant to burn fossil fuels. And actually my district has some of the highest rates of asthma in the entire city, higher than the city average, higher than the borough average. We have a lot of trouble breathing clean air here in Queens. And unfortunately, the community hasn't largely been included in that conversation. And what we're pushing for is a project that's 100% renewable, because it's no longer a pipe dream. The technology is here. We can do this. And so this is why, we want to push, I think, as a labor movement to make sure that any new proposed of these projects come with a labor peace agreement. That's really what we want to do. We want to make sure that it is as easy for workers to receive the wages and benefits that they deserve as possible. We have to attach money to this investment. I think, a lot of us talk about FDR's New Deal and coming out of this pandemic with a full-blown recovery that we would like to see, that puts New Yorkers to work, and that puts New Yorkers to work the right way as union members. So that's some of the stuff that we're going to be working on over the next probably few years together, because we don't have that much time, right? I think the big thing here is if we don't turn this ship around over the next 10, 12 years, we're screwed.
Yep.
And sorry to not be so diplomatic about it. I actually strayed away from the real word I wanted to say, but we're screwed.
I mean, we're already behind with the aggressive goals that we set for ourselves. So.
Yes. And Donald Trump had taken us from away from that Paris Agreement for a little bit, and we're trying to now adapt this space where we were, and when we actually have to be pushing the envelope. So I'm really glad to hear that we're all on the same page on this.
Absolutely. Just to transition into another question, the next one is, what can Albany do to help small business owners facing displacement due to new development? Any thoughts on that?
Due to development. I was gonna get ready to talk about the money that we have allocated in the budget for small business relief during the pandemic, but real big commercial development is real. And I have to say, and I'm sure many of you probably know my community. I know if you're Latino, you definitely know my community because we got all the happen restaurant spots over here. And if you haven't been, please come spend money in my neighborhood. It's really discouraging to see so many big real estate companies start to take over buildings in our neighborhood, charge up the rent, even get some breaks for leaving vacant retail space and not filling them. There's a lot that we can be doing for small businesses, and really it's about access to capital, right? We want to be able to invest, I believe, in these entrepreneurs, because we want to keep our streets vibrant. Look, I know that it's convenient to order everything from Amazon, but if you're really here in this meeting talking to us and talking with us about sustainability and workers' rights, you need to stop that right now, okay? If you need certain things, go to the pharmacy. Go to, your local store. Try and find that mom and pop shop that sells. Do the work, because what we're doing is pushing the economy to a point of a monopoly and of a complete abuse of workers' rights on behalf of a global company that is just drying us out and hurting workers at every turn. And I don't think I need to tell everybody in this room what all of those labor violations look like, but we cannot allow the richest man in the world to get away with this. We can't allow ourselves to live in another Gilded Age. We have to stop it. We are the labor movement. We are the working people. We are the families that are being affected by this. We have to make better consumer choices.
I think that's the perfect way to leave it now. Even I'm inspired. So I want to thank you again for being with us today. And thank you so much for being our relentless partner on so many labor movements. And thank you again for your time. I'm going to turn it back to Joan and Greg now from the Sustainable Portchester Alliance. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me. And Joan, I hear you about the restaurants. I have been to a few Ecuadorian restaurants in Portchester. I actually have friends who live in Portchester.
All right.
Venezuelan, Colombian. And so I hang up there a little bit. I'll let you know next time I'm around.
Awesome. And I came up in Queens. I was out in Queens Village, so I know Queens. Yes, my heart.
My own heart. Thank
Jessica,
you.
Jessica, thank you so much. So your words were so inspiring, live your roots. I think that's, that really hit me. And I'm wondering if you can just give us a few words in Spanish, just to sort of wrap up some words of wisdom, if you wouldn't mind.
Bueno, a mí me enorgullece haber podido compartir con ustedes esta noche para poder discutir las diferentes políticas y proyectos de ley que estoy proponiendo en el Senado estatal para poder no solamente mejorarle la calidad de vida a los trabajadores de nuestro estado, pero en especial enfocarnos en el alivio económico que necesitan nuestros hermanos y nuestras hermanas indocumentadas que no han recibido ningún alivio económico en el último año. Estamos proponiendo un proyecto de ley para poder conseguirles a ellos un poco de dinero y así poder alcanzar un lugar en donde no hayan tantos desalojos y sea más fácil para los jefes de familia poner comida sobre su mesa. Le agradezco mucho a Joan y a todos los que han estado acá organizando con nosotros, porque es muy importante que nos mantengamos al tanto de todo lo que está pasando y que sigamos organizándonos para obtener mejores derechos laborales. Y la verdad, la meta es expandir nuestro movimiento sindical e inspirar a más trabajadores en todas las industrias a que se organicen y formen una unión. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you so much for spending so much time with us this evening. That's awesome.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. And so it's time for us to wrap this up. But before we do, Greg, my goodness, that was just an amazing chat. I just want to make sure that we point out we have a few people who are with us this evening that we really need to just give a shout out to. Our Assemblyman Steve Otis joined us this evening. Our Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins was with us this evening. And our birthday girl, Nancy Barr, county legislator, was with us this evening as well. So, and there are so many other names that we see here. Shelley, thank you so very much for being with us this evening. We have so many friends who we see and some new friends that I'm seeing in the list. What did you think, Greg?
Oh, wonderful turnout. And I'm only disappointed that we didn't have a translator in place. Senator Ramos, next year we will work on that. We will take a lesson. It's important that, of course, that we share these thoughts with the entire village, and over half of this village is Spanish speaking, and they should be enfranchised as well. When people ask me, so what is the Alliance all about? What is your mission? I would say our primary mission is just and sustainable development. That is development which benefits everybody, all stakeholders, not just the investors and the builders and the developers themselves, but the workers, the construction workers, the residents, the people that will be working in the offices and retail locations that fill that new development. The village itself, our finances are in tatters, and certainly we need to expand the tax base and benefit the village's tax income. So if anybody's interested in learning more about our just and sustainable development framework, please send an email to porchesteralliance@gmail.com. We have a white paper in English and in Spanish, which we'll be happy to share. And stay tuned. There is a lot of development on the drawing board here in Portchester, and we're working hard to ensure that that everybody benefits from that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everybody for joining tonight.
Thank you,
it really
Beth.
has been a great turnout.
Thank you, Beth. You did a great job on that interview with Jessica. And we, the Excluded Workers Fund is so very important. I don't know how we consider essential workers not worthy of benefiting from this relief. So $3.5 billion is what we're looking for to be included into this year's New York State budget. And we would encourage everybody to find out more about it and to reach our elected officials to say that you support that. These essential workers allowed so many of us to be able to stay home and be safe during this pandemic while they ventured out to work, to deliver food, and to continue mass transit as well. So this Sustainable Portchester Alliance certainly supports that, and we would encourage all of our guests this evening to support it as well. I also just want to make sure that you all know Sustainable Portchester Alliance, along with Irvington activists, Community Voices Heard, is sponsoring a 3-part webinar that's coming up April 7th, April 21, May 5. It's a 3-part webinar. We're going to look at the history around affordable housing. We're going to talk about the solutions to affordable housing. And we're going to try to create an action agenda to figure out how we get to a point of yes in my backyard on affordable housing across Westchester County. And so you could visit the Alliance's Facebook page, Irvington Activists on Facebook, as well as the Alliance's website to register for that event. Abe Baker Butler is doing our tech for us. Many of you know him. Peter Bernstein, Michael Yellen, and I have put this plan together. And we are expecting to have a very good and interesting conversation and to move us forward. So once again, thank you all so very much for joining us this evening. Thank you to Jessica Ramos. Thank you to Shelley Mayer. Thank you to all of the supporters and sponsors who support Sustainable Portchester Alliance with your dollars and your time. We could not have done this without you. Our labor partners are our heart, and we so greatly appreciate all that you've done to keep us running, to keep us moving forward. To our volunteers who helped pull this event together, Greg and Nicole and Nadia and Victor and Bob and Carol. I don't know how we could have done this without you. Thank you to our awardees. Lou Sanchez, there's not enough that I can say about you. And Greg, you know you got this. And so I am so proud to know you, and thank you for everything that you've done. And to Jeanette and to Olga, my girls, my heart here in Portchester. I love you all. Thank you all. Don't forget, there's an after party. There's another video to see. There's some chit chat. Let's say hello to some of our new folks who are on the line. Don't go away. Go refresh your little glass of wine and come back and join us for an after party. And thank you again. Thank you so very much.
Marcelina, vámonos a pasear. Yo me mando sola que las de llegar. Hola, 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 sin Nicolás. Lo mucho que te quiero y el mal juego que me das. Si quieres, si puedes, si no ya lo verás. Por esos ojos negros me miras y te vas. Ay, qué bonito baila la mujer de Nicolás. La mujer de Nicolás. Ay, llamada Marcelina, ya vámonos a pasear. La mujer de Nicolás. Yo no me mando sola, Nicolás ha de llegar. La mujer de Nicolás. Un pasito para adelante y un pasito para atrás. La mujer de Nicolás. Ay, aquí ya me despido porque ya no puedo más. La mujer de Nicolás.